White Temple, Kyoto, Japan, by Takashi Yamaguchi and Associates. Location: the White Temple is located northwest of Kyoto, about 2 hours out of the city center. This map shows where Kyoto is located in Japan. Kyoto is indicated here by the red arrow. This picture shows the site plan view of the entire temple complex. The temple complex is built in a park grassland area off the shore of a large lake. The lake is shown on the right side of this picture by a blue outline. The White Temple is emphasized as a small gray rectangular shape that sits somewhat set apart from the other structures. The White Temple is indicated here by the red arrow. This picture provides a closer view of the White Temple in relation to the entirety of the temple complex. It is clear that the temple is of a different structural type than the other buildings in the complex, due to its stark white walls that draw the viewer's attention and seem to highlight its religious importance. The temple is indicated in this photo by the red rectangle. Key components of the building program. The key components of the White Temple are the temple itself, the interior altar, and the statue of Buddha. The temple is a white box with an open entrance square and a frosted glass back wall. The altar is a stepped white slab which descends from the back of the room towards the front of the middle. The statue of Buddha is placed up near the back of the stepped altar, and its gold exterior reflects the light that shines within. From certain angles, the temple seems to defy the laws of the physical world, as it is elevated from underneath. The mechanism that elevates it cannot be easily seen, which makes the temple appear to be floating above the ground. These are the section and plan drawings of the temple. The picture to the left shows the roof plan and the interior plan. The roof plan is the top drawing, and the interior plan is the bottom. The picture to the right shows the section drawings from multiple angles. The first two drawings show the views from directly in front and behind the temple, and the third drawing is the side view, showing the steps of the altar to the right. Intent of the architect. The architectural firm that built the White Temple is Takashi Yamaguchi and Associates. They completed the construction of the temple in 2000. Yamaguchi's intent for the design of the temple was to create a space worthy of being a shrine for maternal ancestors. Although the shrine seems quite simple from the exterior perspective, its meaning is quite the opposite. Even the stark white exterior of the temple symbolizes purity, both of mind and body. Yamaguchi's main inspiration for constructing this specific temple was the acknowledgement that traditionally, ancestry was primarily, if not only, focused on the male lineage. Due to this practice, maternal ancestors were often forgotten and not given the proper thanks from their descendants. The White Temple serves specifically as a shrine to the maternal ancestors, with the recognition of the necessity of praising both one's paternal and maternal ancestors. The wooded area that surrounds the temple supports the clear mind of those who enter, aiding the calm atmosphere. This wooded atmosphere can be seen in the picture displayed. According to Yamaguchi, the uniformity of the white exterior announces its presence during the day, but at night loses its form and subsides into darkness. At this point, only the luminous interior can be seen. This interior's nighttime luminosity emphasizes the focus of the large altar within. Another function of the interior whiteness is to create a floating sensation, which is achieved through the absence of dark objects. Once this sensation is achieved, one notices that everything within the temple, aside from the shrine, loses not meaning but substance, so that all focus can be turned towards praise. One may lose concept of time and space when truly focused here, as this would be an ideal mindset during this time.
As you can see in the sections and plan of the White Temple, the form is a simple white rectangular box. It is not very elaborate or intricate, and is not designed to capture the viewer or make them focus on the building itself. By being so simple, it puts the focus on the purpose of visiting, which is to pray for ancestors, both maternal and paternal. It makes the setting calm and peaceful and not distracting, so the viewer can focus on praying. The whole temple is made up of one small room that essentially surrounds the viewer. This room is designed to act as a sort of room for honoring maternal ancestors, because in Japan it is more common to pray only for male ancestors, so The architect wanted to bring attention to that. The interior is mainly just the altar, which again puts the focus on the purpose, which is to pray and honor ancestors. The temple is all white, which symbolizes light, purity, and spirituality for the viewer. This also contributes to a sense of floating outside through the use of black gravel underneath the temple and making sure to leave out dark objects when building that could be seen as anchors. There is a singular glass wall at the back of the temple that shows a view of the woods outside. This wall allows for a connection to nature and a sense of grounding to the earth for the visitor. At night, the box is invisible in the darkness, except for light coming from within to focus the viewer again on the interior altar. The statue of Buddha at the top of the altar is bold and reflects the light from behind to give it an ethereal look. Both the roof and some doors for storage are painted with oxidized silver to provide a glow. The whole building is made of concrete, which gives it a stripped-down look that feels pure and simple. It also
History of Japanese temple architecture. Japanese architecture was influenced by mainland Asia, specifically China, as many temples were built after Chinese models. This is shown as the Japanese modeled their earlier temples after the Chinese pagoda. Chinese pagodas were built with Buddhist influence, and these structures have an emphasis on verticality to mimic the form of the Bodhi tree, a sacred symbol in Buddhism. The Japanese took this pagoda form and created their own. Similarities between the pagodas include a shared emphasis on verticality, having an odd number of stories, usually 5 for luck, being part of a larger monastic complex, and having the entrances face cardinal directions. However, Chinese pagodas house Buddhist relics at its core, and Japanese pagodas act more as a landmark to mark the religious site, while another building in the complex, the Golden House, also known as the Kondo, houses the relics. Buddhism was adopted as the official religion of Japan in the 8th century CE. The presence of Buddhism replaced Shintoism, the native religion of Japan, but the emotionalism in Shinto architecture remained rather than fully adopting and conforming to Chinese Buddhist architecture. Shintoism, as a religion, is a fairly unique religion due to its lack of gods. Shintoism worshipped nature and the kami, or spirit, inside natural objects such as stone, wood, etc. When Buddhism arrived in Japan, they saw Buddha as the great kami, which led to a syncretism of both religions. While Chinese architecture was distinct against the landscape, Japanese architecture often responded to its surrounding topography. Japanese architecture was also described as less formal, as there was less of an emphasis on linear axiality and symmetry as compared to Chinese architecture. Significant buildings of Shinto include the Ise shrines, which consists of the Shrine of Naiku, also known as the inner shrine for sun god Amaterasu, and the Shrine of Geku, also known as the outer shrine for food goddess Toyouki. These shrines are usually located in a quiet forest grove with a relaxed provincial atmosphere. As follows, the Ise shrines are set in the midst of a forest of ancient and lofty cryptomeria trees. Additionally, at these shrines, there is this idea of moving from secular to sacred spaces, as shown in other civilizations. For example, the inner shrine at the Naiku complex, boundaries are created through the construction of inner and outer fences, also known as the torii gates, as depicted in the left image, to give an increasing sense of enclosure as visitors travel up to the shoden, the main sanctuary, the most sacred space. This can be seen on the site plan on the right, as visitors would pass through 2 torii gates, highlighted in red, before arriving at the inner shoden, highlighted in yellow. White Temple Kyoto as historic Japanese architecture. With the end of the Meiji dynasty's total isolation at the end of the 19th century, Japan began studying the political and cultural structures of North America and European countries. As an attempt to accelerate Japan's economic and technical development, foreign scientists and engineers were commissioned by the government. Additionally, many Japanese traveled abroad to work and learn in influential cities around the world, and this is no different for architects. The coalescence of knowledge from foreign architects and Japanese architects returning from abroad allowed for a modernist Japanese style. Influences include European modernist movements such as German Expressionism, Die Stilch, the Bauhaus, and more. After the Second World War, Japanese modern architecture was abruptly stopped, but with the work of Kunio Meikawa and Junzo Sakura, the modernist movement in Japan was revived. The Hiroshima Peace Center, in 1956, designed by Kenzo Tange, one of Meikawa's pupils, is seen as one of Japan's first independent contributions to modern architecture. The Hiroshima Peace Center drew on ideas dealing with the new possibilities of spatial composition and structure made possible with the presence of new materials, concrete and steel. This building was unpretentious and bleak, resting on slender concrete pillars to embody the duality between the East and West. The White Temple continues this exploration of spatial composition and structure with its use of concrete combined with the Zen principles of simplicity. The White Temple, like many other shrines, is located in a larger temple complex, specifically the Zuizhen-ji Buddhist temple complex, creating a stark contrast as the other structures in this monastic complex take on a more traditional architectural approach. The building itself is monolithic, continuing the idea of unity, purity, and simplicity. While the temple does take on more of a modernist approach, the interior draws back to historical Buddhist architecture. The enclosed space embedded minimal hidden skylights to create an overall womb-like chamber similar to earlier Buddhist architecture, and Buddha is raised upon a stepped altar to indicate his otherworldliness and overall importance. Japanese architectural forms and materials. Historically, Japanese architecture revolved almost exclusively on lumber due to its abundance as well as spiritual significance. In Shintoism, kami, or spirit of an object, is above all actions of human, and therefore certain locations, such as sacred groves or groups of rocks, are seen as essential in the meetings of human and kami. The importance of wood in Shintoism, due to its sacred kami, allowed preference for wood construction. This preference is also seen through the modesty and treatment of the wood, as it often remains in its purest, unpainted, and unaltered form. Similar to Chinese construction, the wood framework is often exposed. However, as Japan adopted modernism after ending total isolation, as I mentioned before, Japanese architecture was influenced by several European art movements such as Die Stilch, Bauhaus, etc. Additionally, the introduction of applications of concrete allowed for a more visually uniform structure. The use of any other materials besides concrete would create the exterior to appear as countless pieces. This would defy Japan's architectural characteristics, as they value uniformity due to its emphasis rooted in Japanese aesthetic culture as well as Zen principles.